Well, welcome to the live stream. Let me know if everything is 5 by 5. Seems like our volume is a little low tonight on my mic, but let me know if that sounds good. Thank you for joining me. We're going to get out the back glasses and fix the lapel mic is falling off. So it's good to have everybody here tonight. Those of you that joined me live, those of you are joining me with this being pre-recorded. I have my bifocals on, but they don't let me see the prompter very well. So we're going to make a glass exchange here real quick. Hopefully, I got a brand new shirt on. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but let me fix this. And I've got my mix effects rebooting tonight, being weird. I'm not sure what's going on in the studio, but we will do our absolute best. And the good news is I have some macros made for the things that we need tonight. I have one layout we'll have to do, but welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to hit record. Oh, it doesn't want to record. There is an error, so let me hit stop. Let me grab mine and Dominic's disc. And go back to trying to record again. Stop. Yeah, there's just an error on the record tonight. Let me see if I can record through the software here. Record. No. Try this again. We will not be recording tonight because it is showing an error, and it's kind of stuck in a mode there. So I'm not going to go off the air and try to fix this. So thank you so much for joining me. Sorry, things are a little bit discombobbled tonight, but I do have my coffee and going to have a sip of that. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk tonight about the update for Stiudio Live 32 SC. We're going to look at the different features that were added. You can actually buy the new console. Let me just bring this up here real quick. Let's see, where is it? This is macros. This is my console right here. Now you can buy it for $16.89. This is my 32 SC console, so you can do a firmware update and get all the new features inside this console. Obviously, there's some new changes on the new consoles. We'll talk about those again tonight too. I think I have a picture of that as well. Let me find it here. Somewhere here, let me find it. There we go. Too many pages open. So those are the new consoles that we've talked about that here on the channel. So when you buy these new consoles and you update the firmware, you get a lot of new features built into the console, but not like anything new as far as features like the fat channel. Everything that you get in the update, the firmware for your older consoles will also apply to these newer consoles. What you get with the newer consoles is the form factor. There's some changes to the actual faders, the way they're modeled. The knobs are a little bit higher quality. The LCD screen's a little bit nicer, but pretty much the consoles have stayed the same. Obviously, the color, they're not silver now. Now they are black. They look pretty sick and look pretty amazing. But so we're going to talk about the changes. We're going to talk what it means to be Mulan certified, Mulan, however you pronounce it. We're going to talk about the compressor updates. We're going to talk about the EQ updates. And then we're also going to talk about my trip. Now, I understand this is not a travel channel, so we're going to wait to do that at the end of tonight. I have a video prepared for you this week. I have a video prepared for you next week. We're going to talk a little bit of trivia, some things I learned when I was in Chattanooga. And this says General Jackson and Showboat. This is for Tennessee. So we're going to talk about Nashville next week, but I have my Showboat shirt on, and I will talk more Nashville next week, but this is kind of commercial. I actually have a sneak peek video clip that I'm going to be showing you guys tonight a little bit later about Nashville. Next week, you're going to get a complete trolley tour. So if you don't mind that stuff, let me know in the chat. I'm not going to do any polls tonight. I want to get right into our topic. But before we get into the topic, let me just say that Shannon and I got to spend most of 3 weeks just taking a break. We really needed it. My wife is a midwife, and she was off call for a short period of time, which is great. Anytime Shannon can get off call, she can get a break. And when I mean off call, that means there's no babies due right in that time period. So if there are any babies due, because my wife is a midwife, she's a home birth midwife, which means that she has clients in the house during the pre-birth time and the post-birth time, but the birth takes place in their home. Obviously, they have to qualify for that. But anyway, a long story short, my wife is on call almost all the time. Like doctors can be on call, and she doesn't really have staff. She does have people now that can cover for her. But normally my wife is on call 52 weeks out of the year, unless there's a break. And occasionally you can see the break coming So with that said, we were able to actually take a break. We got 3 weeks break. We did have to come back. She had to come back and see some clients. We had to come back last night because she had some things to do today, clients all day tomorrow. And then we're both back to work now. But we did come back during those breaks. So we went camping, came back, worked a couple days, and then we took off to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things I learned in Chattanooga tonight. Later on, I have a video for you of a train ride. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk a little bit of trivia that I learned from Tennessee, some really interesting things that I thought would be really cool to talk about later. And so maybe you're really familiar with Chattanooga. Maybe you're really familiar with Nashville. I was not. I'd not been into Tennessee that I could remember in my lifetime, unless my parents didn't tell me when I was younger. And so it was a great experience for me. One of the few states in the United States that I have not visited. So I was pretty excited. My adopted older brother, long story, but he's kind of an older brother to me. We're just like brothers, and people actually say we look alike. You're going to see him in tonight's video later because he does the intro to this train ride video with me. And with that said, we're going to talk about that and some trivia from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then touch on some Tennessee stuff. And then next week, we're going to do a little tour of Nashville, Tennessee, at least a tour that my wife and I took. I have some video. I'll edit that next week. But the video tonight is about 7 to 8 minutes long, and it is about kind of the train culture in Tennessee, specifically Chattanooga, and that's going to be really fun. It was fun for us. I hope it's going to be fun for you, and that'll be in the second half tonight. First half, we're going to hone in on the firmware update. That is available for anybody that has a Stiudio Live Series 3 console. I have the 32SC, so I have 32 channels, have 16 faders, plus the main fader on the front of my board. You can see it's right here behind me, and we have a camera on that. We're going to look at some new features that were added to it, and I'm going to try to take away any confusion about what Mulan certification is, the best of my ability. I have a slide ready for that tonight, and then we have an up-close look at what is added to the console. Now, one of the things I want to just say as we say hi tonight, let me put chat on the air. So let's put chat on the air here tonight and say some hellos. So Grish was in here early. So hello, Grish. Good to have you. Tony, as always, it's great to have you. Grish's got some little notes there. So evidently he's having a good time. I get paranoid having coffee that close to equipment. Yeah, I have coffee on my desk. I've had a couple close calls, Grish, but yeah, so I'm a little quiet tonight, so let me turn this up a little bit more. And let me know if that's a little better. Mic a little bit closer to me. Yeah, Grish says hit the like button. I really appreciate when you do that. Thank you guys for joining me. It's good to have you, Hank, in the chat tonight as well. And Bluffton, South Carolina. And then we also have Bert Graham. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Good day, everyone. So good to have you guys all in the live stream, and obviously anyone who is watching this that was recorded. I can't record tonight. I have an error on my my device. So I think my disk was full, or I had a read error, and now I can't, if I hit the stop button either in the software or on the front of my ATEM Extreme ISO, the light does not go out. So I am not recording in studio. I was prepared to record, but I rarely do anything with these videos. So let's just hope everything's looking good. Let me check here. Yeah, it looks like our status is good on YouTube. So good. It's good to have you guys with me in the chat. Obviously, if I was sitting in my studio by myself, it's not quite as much fun. I don't know if you are getting tired of talking about the Stiudio Live 32 console. I know I get a lot of hits on the videos here on my channel. So hopefully it's interesting. But again, when you're doing video, if it's live streaming or you're doing video production. Obviously, there's three things really important. Obviously, what cameras and stuff you have. There's plenty of good quality cameras out there. You can even use an iPhone if you want to go live. Second is audio. Having good audio is paramountly important. I'm using the SM7B. Now, this does go through my Rodecaster Pro version 2. If you don't know anything about the Rodecaster Pro, I'll put a link in the description here tonight after we get offline, and you can go watch some of the videos I have here on my channel. I'll add those, and then you can go and just do your own research. I'm a huge Rode fan. I've had Rode microphones for a lot of years, even though I'm also a Shure microphone fan. I've had Shure microphones for years. I've had other microphones from companies like Audio-Technica. I've had lots of different brand type microphones, but a microphone is only part of it. You've got to get the audio from the microphone into your live stream. This microphone goes into my Stiudio, my Rodecaster Pro 2. Originally, I had a Rodecaster Pro 1, and it's just a really good audio interface. What's an audio interface? It interfaces with your computer via a Mac or a Macintosh, and usually it's USB. Now everything's gone to USB-C 3.0 or better. Usually it's super fast. Lots of data can be transmitted back and forth. And so my Rodecaster Pro 2, as well as my original Rodecaster Pro, they were both 4-input devices. They also had a Bluetooth input that you could bring in a guest through Bluetooth. Now they have two Rodecaster Pro 2 and the Rodecaster Duo, which is a 2-channel device, has this Call Me feature built into it. You can have one guest call in either from software off of their a web page, or they can call in from their Rodecaster Pro 2 or the Rodecaster Pro Duo. No, sorry, it does not go back and work with the Rodecaster Pro. Only Rodecaster Pro 2 and Rodecaster Pro Duo, which is a 2-channel Rodecaster. A little bit different interfaces, not as many buttons. I really prefer the buttons and the interface on the Rodecaster Pro 2. But anyway, those devices also will interact with your Stiudio. I love that they have 2 USB ports and the ability to use it with more than one computer. So I have a PC and my laptop hooked up to it. I say all that to say sound is really important. So I go from this microphone into my Rodecaster Pro 2, channel 1, and then built into the Rodecaster Pro and the Rodecaster Pro Duo, the Rodecaster Pro 2, and even the new Rodecaster Video, you have Aphex built in. Aphex was a real high-end effects processor that you used to be able to buy in the radio industry, which you still can. As far as I know, it is a channel strip, and it was known for the Oriole Exciter, which gives you kind of a brightness and shine to your voice, and a feature called Big Bottom, which was designed for that big radio voice. And I have that turned on now in my Rodecaster Pro 2, but then that has to go out of my Rodecaster Pro 2 into my ATEM Extreme ISO, and that's where the biggest challenge is. I've got to go from right and left 1/4 inch jacks, right, balanced into a stereo input in the back of my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And for some reason, the preamps and that jack is not the best audio or digital conversion. So it has some noise. I have some issues with that. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm captivated about the new Rodecaster Pro or new Rodecaster Video device, especially with the new firmware updates. And so Shannon and I, my wife and I, have been talking very seriously about that purchase. I've tried to slow down a lot of my purchases. I am semi-retired, and I spent so much of my business money last year on my sound equipment that I have. My 32 SC is not used inside my live streams, though I can. It's not hooked up tonight, but we have done audio samples in the past, and I plan on doing audio samples again in the very near future, where you're going to be hearing it instead of my Rodecaster Pro 2 in my live stream, just because it will be fun to try the different compressors and play around with the different EQs. We're going to talk about them tonight. So audio, having a good camera, something to take good video, and then obviously lighting. The lighting in your room or what's in your video shot is really important as well. It doesn't have to be as eclectic as my studio. though this is really designed as a office and a studio. And so I have things on the shelf behind me. I have the TV on set to just a background. I have this monitor here so you guys can see the super source. So if I was to hit play on the video that we're going to be looking at, it's right here. That's now showing you in the preview screen. My hyperdeck, if I was to bring my PC in, it would be right there. That's where the chat pops up. So great to have those sets and those good audio devices and those good cameras in order to do good live streams. So audio is a part of my channel. So hopefully tonight's conversation about the update and the new features built in to the Stiudio Live consoles, as well as the new Mulan certification, which actually does some really cool things as well that really matter when you are doing a live production. And you could use the 32 Live for a church. You could use it for a music venue. You could use it for live video places. You could actually use it just like a Rodecaster Pro 2. It's an interface as well. It's kind of old school, but it's not using USB-C to USB-C. It's an old traditional USB-A cable, but it does act as an interface, and I can record directly from the Stiudio Live 32 SC directly into software on my laptop, and then I can do playback from my laptop as well. In fact, I used to have a 24/4 console that's over, I think, 12 years old now. I had it in my old recording studio, and I used it as my main audio interface. Now, a lot of people didn't use PreSonus boards in their studio because they topped out at 48 hertz, 24-bit recording, and a lot of people wanted higher bit rates available for them, like the professional studios that went digital. They were doing 96 and even higher in their studios, so they wouldn't settle for a 48 hertz recorder. But all the CDs that you would listen to were typically brought back down to 48 kilohertz and or lower, and the bit rates were 24-bit even for WAV files, for audio files who would sit inside their high-end studios to listen to music on digital formats, and they would play back what we call WAV files, which have way more resolution than a MP3 file. And if you remember the boombox days and the little cassette recorders that went digital, right? So you would just have digital songs on there. They were really low bit rate. And so we lost a lot of the fidelity of music in that era. And then it slowly came back to 24-bit, 48 kilohertz minimum. And a lot of CDs are all rendered at 44.1 and, anywhere from 12-bit up to 24-bit, depending on who you had render your CD. And obviously, if you go 24-bit, 48 hertz, that's more space taken up than 44.1. So a lot of times they would change the format to get more songs on a CD back in the day. So that's enough about that part of audio. But as you know, I'm very passionate about video production. I'm very passionate about photography, very passionate about live streaming and live streaming tech. And even recently, I've had some really nice compliments. I only share this to tell you that this has been my goal to help people out there. And so I received this comment. Let me see if I can find comments. Thank you so much for this information. This is very helpful. The whole world needs to see this video, even people not interested in video. I will save this and always refer to it. Very informative. So, if you can get videos like that out on YouTube that people can just access, they don't have to pay for it. If they watch the commercials, I get a little bit of income from my commercials because my channel has been monetized, which means that I get paid when you watch the commercials, even if you skip them. It's very little money. I think the next check I have coming is just under $150. That's for over 2 months. For some reason, they delayed payment, and it's one of the biggest checks I've ever received because they went for a longer period. But I average anywhere from $60 a month from my videos, and most of them are my live streams, though the best performing videos on my channel are my ATEM Mini Pro videos and my new Extreme videos and my Hybrid videos. So, okay, I've talked enough about that stuff. Let's pop up. Grish says, I think it's just the ATEM preamp issue. I just pumped up the volume on my end, but it will need to be remember to turn it down, else the next video will be blasting. Yeah, I think my levels are okay. Let me just look again on what's coming through. Check. Yeah, I'm not peaking or anything. So obviously it'll be higher if I go to my lapel mic, which we'll be going to here shortly. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take chat off the air. I think, let me get this video off. I think the YouTube threshold before they check you is 100 minimum. Yeah, absolutely. So you don't get paid anything if you don't make up to $100. And obviously I would get a check every month if my monthly income on AdSense on YouTube was higher than that. And that's my primary way that my channel pays. So all the work that I do, that's the primary way that I get from YouTube. If any money's coming through that, I get a little bit from being an associate through Amazon. So occasionally I'll have a little disclaimer on my videos with links below that. And when you use those links, you pay the same, but I get some money back. Usually it's in coupons. You sign up for getting money, cash, or like check, or you can sign up for getting coupons. I just use coupons. I apply them to whatever I'm purchasing on Amazon, and then I get a discount using those coupons that come through people's purchases on my channel. But the biggest thing that helps me out is consulting. So I get a lot of people that take advantage of my 1 hour free consult, which I try to promote now every week because it is what's keeping me in the studio, it's keeping me on the air. I also get money through super chats. I think I had a super chat 2 weeks ago from one of my subscribers, and occasionally I get super chats. Super chat is something you could do right in the middle of the live stream. I'm supposed to address whatever you ask me right away when it's a super chat. And the more money you give, the longer it stays up highlighted in the YouTube chat. And then I can put those chats on the air to highlight them as well, even though they haven't been displaying very well with the Google Chrome plugin that I use for whatever reason, the color background, I think. But if you go to my my channel, I have this page right here, and I just finished a free consult, and I have a new client from Kansas, and I'm really looking forward to working through that studio, and eventually we'll be able to talk more about that here on the channel, but that's as much information as I give out. And I have other clients as well that I work with every month, and again, the consult's free. It's 1 hour. It's on Zoom, and I love helping people out, answering questions. I probably get one for every 5 or 6 consults I do. That person becomes a client, and then that's so many hours every month, and it's not very expensive compared to everybody else out there that we watch here on YouTube. What they charge for consulting per hour is way more than I do, because I do generally want to help people out as well as keep the studio open and keep the studio running. So I say that to say that Shannon and I have decided we're going to talk about every purchase, any major purchase over $100 in the studio is something that we're going to talk through and make sure that that's in the best interest as us as we make this transition that we're in right now. So, and we'll talk more about that transition in the future. So, so let's take a look at this. Let me go, let's see. I think I'll just do this, me and my laptop. I do not have slideshows ready here, so we're going to fix that. Live. So what I'm going to do now is go into Super Source in the software, and I'll show you guys where that is here in just a second. We're going to go into box 2, and I'm going to change it to this right here. So now I'm in my Super Source layout, and you can see me using the software. So this is a 2-box layout. Again, I could go down here to the right under the Super Source. So if I close all of these tabs, they look like this under palettes, and you open up Super Source. Super Source is not available in an ATEM Mini, Mini Pro, or Mini Pro ISO. It's only available when you go to the Extreme models. There's 3 to choose from. There's the SDI ISO, there's the Extreme that just records the program out, and then there's the Extreme ISO that records all of the inputs and also makes a file folder for you with the still images that you used, all the audio files, and in all 8 of the inputs, including the program. So those are choices for you, and you have Super Source available for you when you buy an Extreme, and that's why I own Extremes, because I want to do Super Source. So I could go down here really quickly and turn box 3 on, and you can see it's in the background layer, and that's where it's located. I can move it around the screen. I can change the size to it if I want to, and I could bring that on the air just by getting it out from under the other layers. So I'm in a 2-box layout now. So we're going to unenable that box. We're going to go to box 2 and change it to Media Player 1. And then I like to just use Media Player 1 to drop in slides. So let's drop in this slide. So Mulan, let me turn the key off here. So Mulan certification is what we're going to talk about tonight. I believe this is one of the biggest reasons that they didn't make major changes to the new consoles. I think what was going on is going to the next level for PreSonus and their audio equipment is to make it more compliant and compatible with other devices, so that their A to D converter that they have that will not goes ASB, which is, let me grab my notes here. What did I do with my notepad? Say this right. The AVB Ethernet network protocol that they use is their own protocol. So all of their equipment communicates together. So you have an NSB stage box, if you have the EarMix 16, if you have the little network box that I have as well, those will all communicate with each other. They also have to clock. They also need to clock with compatibility for everything else that's out there that you might want to use with it. And PreSonus came out with a box to let you go from AVB networking to go to Dante. And so that device needs to be compatible. And so I think they were having issues with compatibility. This is just my hypothesis. And so they wanted to get Mulan certified. And so they had to look at their devices and find a way to get it compliant with Mulan, to get permission to buy the license, and to get everything that they have updated. The reason I believe that that's true is that's one of the biggest features to the new consoles. But the firmware update takes my 32SC and updates it as well. And you do firmware updates for the NSB stage boxes, which are the network boxes you can put on the stage and have your board communicate with a CAT cable or an internet cable, a network cable, back and forth. So they use the AVB, which stands for audio video bridging. They use that networking technology to communicate back and forth, but the Mulan certification fixed clocking issues and it makes some improvements. And so I have a slide here. Let me grab it. Did I lose my slide? Go. So let me change to this view right here. So What is Mulan? Mulan is media networking specification based on AVB and TSN Ethernet technology. So legacy Ethernet versus AVB technology. Again, AVB is what Presonus has been using as their communication, while legacy Ethernet was never designed to handle critical real-time traffic and only provides statistical priority for audio and video streams. AVB technology ensures complete reliability and fast delivery of media signals over a network. So the reason Presonus went with AVB, that technology, they felt it was the best protocol for them at the time. The benefits of AVB technology with AVB, the Ethernet network itself automatically provides the bandwidth, the reservation of traffic shaping mechanisms needed for critical applications. This finally makes networking easy to handle, fast to deploy, and safe to use all kinds of critical live event situations. So to make it Mulan compatible means that now it will work with all of these other Mulan devices, networking with confidence, and these are all logos and brands that are using Mulan, and it affects the clocking. And I attached a really good video. I believe that video was put out. Let me click on it here real quick. Let's see, where is it? In the show notes. It's actually in the notes that you can check below.
Since their introduction in 2000.
Yeah, B&H put out a really good video, and it is linked in the description that covers the new Stiudio Live SE consoles, as well as what translates from the old consoles when you do the update from the new consoles, and what's similar. And we're going to look at the Fat Channel plugins that came with this firmware update. You used to be able to access those through your Stiudio Live account, and you could use those as long as your laptop was plugged in to your Stiudio Live console, but now they are inside the console. So you can use the compressors and the EQs, an update to the digital reverb, as well as one tiny update to the limiter that's available as well. And that's what we're going to look at tonight here in a minute. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Mulan certification. So with all of that said, now it's compliant and compatible with all of these devices. So you can see that what Stiudio Presonus is doing with the Stiudio Live family tree is making it more compatible so that you can use the consoles using their conversion to Dante with these other devices, and now they'll communicate, they'll clock better, they sync better, and you don't get any issues. Well, I can't say you won't get any, but you're going to be better off if everything is more compatible on both ends, even though you're going from AVB to Dante language over a network. If it's a Mulan certified device, then it's going to communicate a lot better over their adapter. And so, and somewhere in this video, which I'll pop up here real quick, I'm just looking for the one slide here. Hopefully it'll happen before too long here.
BD16 Dante.
So that is the 16 channel IO AVB to Dante bridge, sample rate conversion, clock isolation. So if you want to go from AVB to Dante, then you need to purchase this device. And you can see it's only good for 16 channels. So obviously if you have a 16 channel Presonus Stiudio Live board, then one of these devices will be adequate. But if you wanted to do more than 16, and that's the one device by Presonus I do not own, because I don't need to do any Dante conversion, but you can buy speakers with Dante adapters built into them. I know JBL, I believe, has an option for that in their speakers. I think maybe Yamaha does as well. So now you can send a digital signal using Dante to those speakers. So, and obviously 16 channels would be more than adequate. So you could send 16 channels of audio to speakers on a stage and no longer have to use regular cables to run sound. Now, they don't have an AB adapter built into any speakers that I know of. So all of my speakers, my Yamaha speakers, I have to come from a stage box, which I do send digital signal to it. It sends digital signal back through the AVB network. But from that box on the stage to my speakers, I have to have a cable. So that's really important to know, that if you do own a set of speakers and they have the Dante adapter in them, you could now buy this device and then you could send digital signals from your board to that device and send the audio to your mains and your monitors using a network, a Dante network. So that's what I wanted to say just about the Mulan certification. It's IEE standard, AVB is, and obviously using a network, Ethernet network, and it just really is improved clocking and stability when you go to the Mulan certification. So if you own a 32 SC console, let's change back to multi-view behind me. If you own a Persona Studio Live 3 console or the rack mount version, you do want to do the firmware update because it's going to make the clocking better, more stable, and improved. So you're just going to have better clocking. And if you don't know what clocking is, digital audio from one device to the other device, they have to sync the clock. So there's built-in clocking so that they are in sync. You don't want things doing this. You know, it's just like my lips being off in video where the audio gets to your ears before my lips move. You have ability to sync the audio with my lips built in to the Stiudio Live console. And might as well bring that up and show that why I'm talking about it. So right under mic 1 and mic 2, I can click on this box right here, and I've got 4 frames of delay. So basically, I have delayed the audio 4 frames to catch up to the video. In reality, the audio is getting there faster. So I have delayed the audio so it syncs with the video, and I have 8 frames of audio delay that I can do inside the Stiudio or the ATEM control software. And I can do that for mic 1 and mic 2. And again, I do have to live with the preamps in the back. Now, if I brought audio in on video input number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, there is no syncing available. So you better have a microphone on top of the camera, and that audio better be synced with the video when it comes from the camera, because there's no way through an ATEM control software to sync it after the fact. So, okay. Well, let's look at the other major update. So according to the people out there that know more than me, there are 7 additional EQ models, giving you a total of 10 now available. And we're going to look at that. It's built into the FAT channel. And if you don't know what the FAT channel is in a Stiudio Live console, we're going to turn around here and talk about it and in a second. So let me enable the camera that's on that device. And let's turn off these lights. Where is that guy? Right here. That should give us a better picture, and I know it's on top of everything right now. That's just because I have chat on the air, so let's turn chat off the air. And then let's go ahead and create a 2-box layout. So we're going to go back into me and my laptop so you guys can see this. I'm going to go up to Super Source, and instead of box 2 showing my laptop right here, I'm going to change this to my PC, which is where this camera is coming in. So this is one of the changes that's taken place. So this is the digital reverb, and the digital reverb is found on the board under the 4 effects buses. So on the top left of the console, and I'll show it to you here in a second with the camera. Actually, let's just pan over there right now so you guys can see it. So over here on the fat channel, am I going to be able to pan over there? Yeah, we'll just kind of turn it like this. So that's the fat channel on the top left, and you can see on the top left, sorry, I don't have 2 cameras on this, but on the top left, you can see that there's a number of knobs. Those are the ability to adjust one parameter in the different functions there. And if I turn around real quick, and I'll change microphones. Check. We do have audio, a little hot. So if I turn around, you have right here, you guys should see this. Yeah. You have input, and that's to get to the inputs that are on the console. Next to that, you have gate. No changes to the gate. Under compression, you have changes. We're going to look at those in a second. And under EQs, you have changes. And this is how you turn on the EQ. Right now, I have effects on. And the way the effects are turned on, they are a part of these 4 effects banks. Now, these are the mute buttons, so I can mute a effect. So if I'm live and I want to mute this effect so no one's got reverb on their voice when they're talking over a microphone and then they start singing, I can turn it back on. So I can mute all 4 of my effects banks. There's also a button at the bottom of the auxiliaries. And I think I have a shot of that in camera 2. Let me see if camera 2 has a shot of that. Or if I can give you a shot of that from camera 2. Kind of in the way, but we'll try this real quickly here. So you see my camera is really in the way, but right here, I'll slide this over just a touch. I'll put it back. Right here are those buttons. So I have 4 buttons right here. I think everybody can see that now. And so this is effects A. And then if I want to see the reverb, that's the button I'd push, and then I have to change to that digital reverb. Hopefully that's really close to where it was, so it works for my other camera. So we'll move this back over. Yeah, pretty good. So that's the digital reverb right there. And they've added some extra knobs to the digital reverb. They've made it better. The AI built into it's better. There are more buttons. So it's now called the Digital XL reverb. And that has a bunch of plugins available. So I can choose all of these different reverbs already set up: large hall, small room, dark hall, medium room, large room, clean vocal, ballad, clear jazz, space, smoky jazz, cathedral, ambient air, dreamscape, big vox, reflections, snare plate, lush instruments, nice drum room, bigger drums. So these are all presets, and I can choose those. Right now, I don't have a preset, but I could do large hall, and now it says I'm in large hall, or I can just go to any one of these bigger drums. So that's going to automatically change the reverb. So this reverb's been updated with the new firmware also. And I don't have a before and after to show you, but let's go to input 1 and let's click over here on the limiter. And the release, I believe, has been updated on the limiter. At least that's what they say. I didn't look at it before. I've used the limiter many times, but I can't remember off top of my head what the limiter buttons look like. But supposedly that was updated. And then if I turn on the compressor, then I have all of these new compressors. And as I said, we have 7 additional EQs and 8 additional compressors. So these are the compressors. You have standard, tube, FET, and we're going to go through these here in a second. But you can see how many compressors I have. And if I hit the EQ button in my FAT channel, this is how many EQs I now have. And so these used to only be available if you had them loaded on your laptop, and then you installed them via hooking up your laptop or your Macintosh with your Stiudio Live console. But the good news is now they're actually built in, so I can unplug my console. It is not plugged into my laptop right now, and I have access to all of these compressors. So 11 options for compressors, and I have 10 EQs. So 7 additional added with the firmware update, 8 additional compressors added with the firmware update. Now we're going to walk through and show you what those look like. So here we go. So on the EQ, you have standard. It looks like this. This is the one I normally use when I'm at a live venue, and it works great. Then I go to the first one, and it is a passive. So you can see it's more traditional. I can tap on the on and off button. I can tap on the boost and then use the dial right below the board. Let me zoom out so you can see that real quick. I can use the dial right here to adjust those parameters. You can see they're moving. So any parameter I want to change, I can adjust with this right here. And the traditional compressor, if I click on compressor up here, we're on EQs up here, then I can change different high pass filter up there is automatically able to change. I've got gain adjustments, but these work on the traditional EQ, but the high pass filter gives me an information of what I'm doing the high pass at. So there's 120 hertz right there, and that's right there. So, but back to the EQs, this is one version. It's called the passive EQ, and they're modeled after other events. This is the vintage. You can see it's laid out differently. Again, EQs, there's lots of different types of EQs, different families. It's like there's a lot of different meat dishes that you can make, but they're all meat. They're all EQs. Here's the Alpine EQ 550, modeled after a famous EQ equalizer. They just can't use the name. They'd have to license it. Here is the Baxdell EQ. I own this EQ as a rack mount. It's about a $2,600 equalizer. I owned it. This is modeled after that. I haven't compared the sounds because I don't own that EQ anymore, but the modeling these days is really well. So you can see that EQ has a cut and a shelf. Then you have the different bands, and then you have another cut and shelf up here. But it's mainly a really good mastering EQ. So the final sheen on the stereo bus, which you can add all of these compressors to your buses. So now we'll go to this RC 500 EQ. So that's what it looks like. Oh, wait. That's the back cell. Let's try to hit that again. Go down a little bit. There we go. There's the RC 500 EQ. This is called the Solar 69. Again, these are modeled after some majorly awesome equalizers. Some of these I've worked with before. when I was running my Stiudio as plugins. But the only high-end EQ I ever owned was that Bax EQ. Here's the tube EQ. I do not know exactly what they're modeled after. I did not check into that. Here's the vintage 3-band EQ, what it looks like. And then here is the VTI EQ. And you can go right back to the normal standard, which is built into Stiudio One, and this is a touch EQ that you can raise and lower these up. Click on gain. The nice thing about the new consoles is their touchscreen is better. It's also inset. I may go ahead and update the console, but the touch sensitivity is just better. So you got to decide, do you want to do frequency sweeping, or do you want to do gain up and down? Once you light up, that's the Q, which tightens it. You can see it's getting tighter. And then when you go up and down, you have a real thin cut, real thin boost, or you can Q it out really wide and you can have a wide cut and wide boost. And obviously where it's located, what frequency affects what you're cutting. Now I do have the low pass on. That's why all this side is cut out. So these can just be turned on as bands right here on the bottom. I could use it as a 1-band EQ. I could use it as a 2, 3, or 4 by turning those bands on. Okay, so now let's look at the compressors. Hopefully everybody's still with me. Sorry you're seeing just my back in this camera angle. Apologize for that. But looks like our audio is still good. Now let's go through the compressors. Let's start with the standard. Standard compressor looks like this, on and off. The threshold, can change the threshold. That's like the ceiling where it starts compressing. So anything that gets over minus 1.2 dB is going to get compressed. I can do the ratio, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. Obviously, the higher you go with the numbers, it continues to go, and then it also becomes a limiter when you get past 10. So now it's actually a limiter, so I can make this standard compressor a limiter if I wanted to by just turning it all the way up to limit. And then I have the attack. That's how fast it comes on. Release is how fast it lets go. And then anytime you compress, you're losing some gain. And so you want to do some makeup gain right here at the very end. So usually it's like 2 to 1 compression is about 2 dB you need to make up, might be 2.5. If you get up to high compression right here, let's say like 10 to 1, you'd probably really have to boost your gain up. I can get, it's not very touch sensitive. Okay, so let's go through the compressors that were added. You got a tube compressor right here. You can actually have it look at a particular source. So it's listening to what channel. So the compressor can be influenced by another channel in your chain. And then you can do key listen. You have the ability to adjust it, turn it on and off with a touchscreen. You could do limiting or compressing, and that's just changing it. It's a preset compressor, so you can't change how much compression. You can either go to a limiter or a compression. So I don't know what this is. It's probably like 4 to 1 or something like that. So on and off right here, the light comes on. So you got a tube, then you got a FET compressor. Again, it's a type, has key listen built in. Another type of compressor that's modeled FET, then Brit, which is modeled after a British compressor used in a lot of the bands that came over from Europe. Classic compression. Right here, it's just a classic model. Let's go down here so I can tap on comp 160. That's what the compressor 160 looks like. And you got this Everest C100. That will look familiar to a lot of people that have played with rack-mounted compressors. Looks very similar the LA2A, FC670, again, modeled after a 670 compressor, RC500 comp, looks like that. The tube CB right there, looks like it's copied after the red. Tube CB, and then this VT1 compressor. And so those are the different compressor models that are available on the Stiudio Live board, and a little bit closer look at those, and I'll take you through those again. Standard tube, Brit, classic, $160, Everest A, FC70, RC500 compressor, tube CB, and the VT1 compressor. So again, that is incredible that all that is now built into the Stiudio Live 32 console. That means wherever I take it, whenever I'm using it, I don't have to have a laptop. I have access to all of these. So if you were finalizing something for someone, or if you just wanted to put that on the master bus and you wanted to put a compressor and an EQ on the master bus, you can flip them. You can see on the top left there, I can flip. You can see on the top left here, I can flip the compressors. I knocked that picture out. I did, didn't I? Now we're good. I can switch EQ and compressor right here. So now compressor's first, EQ second. Now EQ's first and compressor is second. So again, that's a close-up of the different compressors. Let me know in the chat if you'd like to see a close-up of the EQs, and we will get back to me and a logo, and we'll get back in the chat because we haven't looked at the chat for a while. Put chat on the air, and Akil, it's good to have you tonight. Jay, it's good to have you as well. My audio is probably completely gone right at the end there because I forgot to switch back to my lapel mic, but I was just showing you each of these new compressors that are built in, models built into the Stiudio Live 32 console. So I apologize for my microphone. David's good to have you as well from down under. Much better. Yeah, sorry about that, Grish. So again, I was just going through the different compressors. So yeah, the close-up camera. So you have 7 new additional equalizers that are now available in the console, regardless of where you're traveling. You don't have to plug in your laptop to get advantage of those. And the really cool thing is I can have the EQ first or the compressor first, depending on how I want it. And there's lots of reason for that. You don't want to compress an equalized frequency. So let's say there's something you want to cut. It's a lot easier to cut it first and then compress it later. And there's other reasons why you would flip compressors first. Let's say you're limiting and then you want to compress. So limiting would bring everything down a little bit more, so all the high frequencies have been tamed, and then you would add a compressor after the EQ chain as well. Or you could have a limiter and a compressor limiter on a channel as well, because you can turn almost all the compressors into limiters. So again, limiting is just a really, really, really high compression. And just remember that if you don't have an auto gain setup function in the compressor you're using, when you compress a signal down and you limit a signal, you're lowering the volume as well. So you got to bring the volume back up as after it comes out of the EQ and after it comes out of the compressor. It's also a trick. You can use an equalizer usually or a compressor to raise the volume even in the control software. You can use that gain increase at after the compressor, after the EQ to help boost the gain in a lot of compressors and EQs. So my gate is too aggressive. Okay, well, let's look at the gate right now. Me and my laptop. Let's go into the audio settings. Check. Let me put the headphones on. Check. 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 Test. Check. Check. Yeah, there's just some hum. I'm always playing with this to try to get it to not hum. And if you listen very carefully right now, you're going to hear some noise. I lose most of the noise right there, but I need to be talking right into the microphone. Again, one of the things I do not like about the control software built in and the microphone jacks of what everybody's using these days, and that is the consoles by Blackmagic Design called Minis. And Rodecaster Pro has two really nice preamps built into their Rodecaster Video. And so one of the things I'm seriously considering here in the studio is broadcasting always from a Rodecaster Video. Even though I still would have two extremes in my studio, I would just come out of the extreme into the video output into the Rodecaster Pro and then use the inputs on the Rodecaster Pro to sync up the audio. And so we'll see. Great that you guys are all here. Okay. So any questions about the firmware update for the Stiudio Live 32 consoles? Again, Mulan certification, some new dials on the reverb. It's now the XL reverb. That's the only change in the effects inside, but the compressor and the EQ all got that FET package that they had available that you used to be able to use from your laptop or your PC, and now with it connected, but now you can use it built in because it was built into the firmware, which is great. So, so you get the total of 11 compressors, you get a total of 10 EQs, you get the 7 new additional EQs and the 8 additional compressors to bring it up to those numbers, and you get a variable supposedly limiter function, which I have not discovered where that's out yet. I can't seem to find this variable limiter dial that was added, so I'll have to do more research to figure that out. And Mulan certification just gives us improved clocking and better stability and better compatibility, not only in the AVB network when you're just using your PreSonus gear, and that would be the EarMix 16M, the stage boxes, and then if you are going to use the network switch or the conversion to Dante, you'll be able to have a better network inside AVB equipment, and you'll also have a better transition to Dante devices. The other thing a lot of people don't realize is you can hook up multiple Stiudio Live consoles. So you can even assign which console has control of the preamps. So let's say I have a perfect house mix, and I want to have another console on the stage to mix the auxiliaries, the monitors, or the in-ears. then I can assign the preamps to me and lock everybody else out. And then any adjustment that they make on the stage does not affect the mix that's either going to the live stream or to the house speakers. You can do that as well. You could add another Stiudio live console to another room in the network. And there's a lot of cool things you could do. So that's really cool about the AVB network, which stands again for audio, video, bridging. So you can bridge audio and video. And if you go back to earlier in the video, I showed some slides about Mulan certification, the compatibility slide. And so that's a big update that applies to the newer consoles that you can purchase. See if I can find those consoles here real quick. And by the way, let me switch over to this page right now. So this is my personal page for my Stiudio Live console. And so you have capture available, universal control, which is the software that communicates between the board, the Stiudio Live console, and the computer. That also is the same app that you're going to use on an iPad to control through an iPad. You can literally walk around a venue controlling the whole board from an iPad. You can route from an iPad, everything you expect to do. You can run the compressors from the iPad and all of that, but it shows you other compressors and things that you can add through Stiudio Live. And then you can see the capture, which is the software that you can use just to record a show. You download capture and it automatically assigns all the channels from your mixer to capture. They're all already ready to go. They're in order 1 through 32. They're all set to record. And all you have to do is hit a record button and you will be recording your whole show. It also makes a stereo track from your stereo track. So that's a quick way to just capture a show. You can also use capture to play back as a sound check. And then you have the firmware. So the latest firmware for the Stiudio Live 32 console, what brings it up to speed with the newer consoles, the SC consoles that were just released, is firmware version 3.1.1.107470. It does not have a date of when that came out, but universal control needs to be updated as well on your computer. And you also need to do firmware updates to all your other devices. Now, I don't have any of my other devices right now hooked up to the network. So I don't think they show up here unless I have them hooked up to the network. That would be my 16M. I don't have one out, but I do have a digital stage box here on the table, but I'm not using it tonight. So again, that's the Stiudio Live. You have to have an account to get to these firmware updates, but you can update the older consoles, right, to have all of these new features. Cool. Okay, so let's go back to me and my logo, and let's talk just a little bit about my trip to Nashville. Before I went to Nashville, and I'm going to give you a little teaser video here in a minute, I went to Chattanooga. My good friend and brother, we're not related, but through divine intervention, my mother one day introduced me to Rob Sylvie and said, "This is your brother." And if you knew my mom, she would never say anything like that if she didn't mean it. Rob's a little bit older than me, very similar to my older brother at the time. I had an older brother at the time. Little did I know, little did Rob know, and little did my mom know that my older brother was going to pass away. So my older brother passed away back in 1995. My mother passed away in 1994. And I think it was in like 92 or earlier when my mom introduced me to Rob and said, "This is your brother." And Rob works for security. He used to work right here in the Tri-Cities, not security, but safety. So he worked for large corporations here, making sure that their job sites were safe. He now travels all over with a pharmaceutical company doing safety for them. He plans on retiring a couple years. I'm semi-retired now. And he comes out here because his boys live here in the Tri-City area, which is Richland, Pasco, Kennewick. So I've been invited to go visit him and Sally over and over and over again as they come in. In fact, they'll be here next week on another visit. So we just saw them in Chattanooga, and it was so cool because I didn't have any knowledge of Chattanooga. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew about the Chattanooga Cho Cho. So I knew that there was a train in Chattanooga. In fact, we rode the train. I decided instead of getting hats on this vacation, which I did on my last vacation, my cruise, I brought back a hat from all 3 ports of call. When we went into the European or the other side of the Caribbean. And so this time I decided to get coasters. So this is the Tennessee Valley Railroad coaster, and it's etched in wood. And it says museum because we visited the museum to see the older trains and Tennessee Valley Railroad. And we actually rode one of the trains. I rode the train with my basically adopted older brother. And it's funny because my wife goes, you guys are so much alike. And people say we look alike. Now, Rob has a twin brother. And they don't look as much alike now as they did when I first was introduced to Rob as my older brother from my mom. But, and I've run into his older brother occasionally. Neither one of them live in the Tri-Cities now. His older brother lives in Portland, I believe. And Rob lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But I had an absolute blast with my wife, Shannon, in Chattanooga. And so I just want to roll this video real quickly. So you guys can watch this little 7-minute video of us taking a train ride. It ends with information about the Chattanooga Railroad. Here's the railroad ticket that mine is stamped, a traditional railroad ticket. This is the Mission Ridge local. We got a chance to ride it. At the other end of the ride, which is 15 minutes, they get you off the train, and then they do a flip of the train. They actually have a carousel where they turn the train around. It goes to the other side of our train and hooks up and takes us back a 15-minute ride. So you do the same ride twice, but you get to see them turn the train around. And then they actually have some older trains at the halfway point, and you get to go in and there's a presentation telling you about some of these old retired steam trains. It's really cool. But let's roll this video and let you guys enjoy this little train ride. It was, again, the Missionary Ridge local, and Rob Sylvie, my adopted brother, helps me do a little introduction, so you'll get a chance to meet him. There's also a clip of my wife and his wife sitting across from us and getting on the train. So here we go. I'm calling this video the Tennessee Trains. I am here actually in Chattanooga, Tennessee with my brother Rob. Hey, say hi, Rob.
Hey, how y'all doing?
He doesn't have an accent like that. And we're about to ride a train, and we are going to call it the Chattanooga Cho Cho.
We are on the Chattanooga train. This is train number 104. It's a 15-minute nostalgic ride, and we'll be at the end. We will be deboarding the train and just taking a look around.
And CSX transportation. Don't consider is actually our next door neighbor over here. The double track name like that, you'll see them above on that mound.
Okay, this is the ride out of the station. Again, it's 15 minutes. These are some of the scenery on the way to the center turnaround point. images on this 15-minute journey. This is the halfway point, one of the engines that's there for us to be able to look at. This is some of the coal that they use for the steam engines on display. That's a piece I brought home with me. That's Rob talking to the conductor, and now they're turning this engine around.
68 years ago today. But thankfully, this engine belongs us here at the museum.
It's all electronic now, but it was manual in the old days.
Locomotive division of General Motors. And yes, you've heard me right. The same General Motors that manufactures automobiles is the same one that did create this engine way back in 1950. Now, when it was first built, it was built as a 4-axle GP7 series type, or Jeep in railroad talk. And no, I do not mean off-road Jeep. GP or Jeep stands for a little airplane, general purpose. It can be used as a switch engine, a freight engine, as well as most of the time do, or haul occasional passenger tram, Alabama, where it did get damaged.
Cho Cho. So this is in the town, and there's the original Chattanooga Cho Cho. The song was written about. So this is on display in the old railroad depot. It's no longer functioning, but the Cincinnati Southern. Pretty simplistic. There's a rail car we'll look in a little bit later. There's another look at the Chattanooga steam engine on display. They actually have private parties inside that dining car. The old steam engine. So coal would heat up the steam and the steam would run engine. There's the door to put in the coal. And some of the steam controls on top. Here's a handle to increase and slow it down. Here's an empty coal car right behind where I was just standing. And here's a close-up of the wheels. It's all painted. Really cool. And you could actually get up there, which is where I took the pictures of the steam engine. And there's a look into that private dining car. So wasn't open that day. There's Shannon and I standing in front of the Chattanooga Cho Cho. And here's a little information placard that was available. If you want to take a snapshot of this and read it, it's going to be up there on the screen for about another 20 seconds. And that's the depot right there with the famous Chattanooga Cho Cho sign on the top. And back on the Mission Ridge local. Of course, the whistles were used to represent different things. When they cross the bridge, when they go through a tunnel, they're always designed to send a message to the conductors and the team on the train. Thanks to Rob and Sally for a fun time in Chattanooga and the great people I met in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that is the train ride. So again, I have my punch ticket. I have Shannon's punch ticket to ride. We got to ride an authentic train in Tennessee. Again, there's a song written about the Chattanooga Cho Cho. I can't play it here, but I've linked a video that has the song on it. It's a great documentary on the Chattanooga Cho Cho. I also have information below. I learned also that there is, let's see if I can find it here. Well, let's do this first. So this is John Shre remembering when Chattanooga Cho Cho opened up 50 years ago. So here is a look at the station that we got to go chance to see. And you get to go inside. There's different markets and shops in there, restaurants inside there. Behind it is a venue where the Chattanooga Cho Cho's at. So you could rent it. There's actually train hotel. So train cars. So you could actually stay overnight in a train car. But this is just a page that talks about, obviously it's got advertisements all over. But the spring marks the golden anniversary of the unique Chattanooga attraction that has capitalized on music, pop culture, and city's rail, architecture, history to bring a little gold to the city and develops through the dollars a positive, attentive Chattanooga Cho Cho Hotel, dining, entertainment complex opened 50 years ago. Spring through 2 events. The restaurant facility in April 11th, the Hilton Hotel on May 30th, in what was apparently the grand opening. So you can see some of the original seats. So lots of nostalgia. So you guys can do your own research, but there's just a lot of train history in Chattanooga. Chattanooga. The other thing I was surprised that these little puppies came from Chattanooga. Now, I'm a moon pie fan and have been for a long time. So I ordered this on Amazon to have with me tonight. It's a little old advertisement with Lookout Moon Pie and the biggest and best lunch in town, 5 cents. So moon pies were like not very healthy, more a snack than lunch. But for 5 cents at some point in the past, you could buy a moon pie. You don't know what a moon pie is? I actually got a box in the mail for tonight. I'm going to unbox moon pies. I've been dying to do this. I've had these since last week when we got home. They arrived the only day we were home. So there you go. You got moon pies in there. This is the original moon pie. They come in different flavors. It says began in 1917 when Kentucky coal miner framed the moon with his hands and asked our traveling salesman for a snack as big as the moon. Earl Mitchell reported back, and the bakery obliged with a tasty treat, aptly named the moon pie. It was filling, fit in lunch pail, and coal miners loved it. The rest is to say is history. So evidently coal miners would grab one of these moon pies. So we're going to open this up. There's a bunch in here. I wish I could share them with each and every one of you. That would actually make my day, but it says moon pie on the front, and it's got the ingredients on the back. It tells you that it has 5 grams of fat, saturated fat 3 grams, trans fat 0, cholesterol 0, sodium 190 milligrams, total carbohydrates 40 grams, dietary fiber 0, total sugars 20 grams of sugar, includes 20 grams of added sugar, protein 2 grams. So not the best lunch in the world. It's got vitamin D 0, iron 0.6 milligrams, 4%, potassium 20%, and calcium 0. And then the ingredients: water, flour, invent sugar, corn syrup, sugar, palm oil, palm kernel oil, and it goes on and on and on. But I'm going to get one of these out, covered with chocolate. So basically, it's like a marshmallow pie. So again, cracker on the top, cracker on the bottom. We're going to open it up like you would an Oreo cookie to let you see inside. So cracker and marshmallow covered with chocolate. Pick up what fell on the floor. So Chattanooga, also known for the moon pie. The reason we discovered that, when I was at this hotel restaurant in the back, they actually had a little shop, and in the window of that shop was moon pies. And I had no clue. I didn't go in the little shop, a little souvenir shop. My wife walked in, but little did I know that Chattanooga was known for moon pies. Also, I learned on my trip that Mountain Dew was invented in Tennessee. And so Mountain Dew's been around a long time. I put a link in the video below for moon pies, put a link in the video below for Mountain Dew. So Mountain Dew went through a lot of history. The name Mountain Dew was also used to talk about moonshine. So later on, a drink was made, and they took that name for moonshine and called it Mountain Dew, which was not moonshine. It was a drink, and it changed over the years. Pepsi got rights to it, and they eventually made it to drink. It is now super popular and marketed towards gamers right now. There was a time where it was marketed towards athletes. Most recently, gamers. They came out with different flavors, and there is even been a Mountain Dew flavored chip. What was it? Dorito chip at one point, and a Dorito flavored Mountain Dew. So check out the video that I put in the description below about the Chattanooga Cho Cho, about moon pies, and also about the history of Mountain Dew. I thought that was very fascinating. And again, I have my Tennessee train little coaster that's going to stay in my studio as a shelf memento. And then I also want to talk just a little bit about the people in Chattanooga. They were really nice. Like, I was really surprised. I live in the Richland area, the Tri-Cities. We have a melting pot of people from around the world, but I couldn't believe how nice the people I ran into in Tennessee. Everybody seemed to be really nice. People on the train were really nice. The people getting on the train after we were getting off were really nice. The people I ran into in the shop, the restaurants that we went to, the airport when we got into Chattanooga, just seemed to be really nice people. We did attend a church. Rob and Sally attend a giant church in Chattanooga. It's called, I think, what's it called? I can't remember the name of the church, but great church, great pastor, very large facility. The son took over, I think, in 2012 from his father. His father was sitting in there with his wife, and I'm really impressed with the history. I believe its history is Church of God. Anyway, it did not have Church of God in the name, but that's its roots. And again, they were doing a great job, great music, great auditorium, great facilities, incredible lobby. I was super, super impressed. So we got to attend church. Those people were great. The people at the restaurant after were great. So Shannon and I were there for about 2 days, and then we rented a car and drove to Tennessee. And again, a little teaser, we're going to take a tour of Nashville next week on a trolley. I still have to edit the video, but here is a sneak peek. Downtown Nashville.
As we round this corner, and you'll look.
And this is a famous painting. We'll talk more about that next week. Where all the music happens, and we'll talk more about the mural. So we went through Nashville. We took a tour on a trolley. We got a chance to go to an old mansion. We got a chance to see some of the sights. We got a chance to go to some of the places. This trolley would come every 20 or 30 minutes, and it had about 8 stops, even though it can't go downtown after 3:30 or 4 o'clock because they don't let the bigger trolleys go downtown Nashville. So I hope you'll tune in again next week, because at the end of next week, we're going to talk a little bit about Nashville, Tennessee. I also went to the music museum. There's my ticket. And here is my wife's ticket that has Dolly on it. So I have some pictures of inside the museum, and I have lots of footage of Nashville, Tennessee. So I hope you guys will join me for that next week. Let's put chat back on the air. Hi to Tony. We just did our first cruise 3 weeks ago. Tony says, how was that experience, Tony? And what cruise line did you go on? I'd love to know. He moves some software back over here. So what cruise line did you go on, Tony? Good to have you, Juris. Sorry you missed the earlier part of tonight's video. Thank you, Akil. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, we did have a great time. Yeah, in the tunnel, there's lots of history and nostalgia in Chattanooga. Obviously, I thought it was cool that moon pies came from there. We did have a great time. Shannon said, I actually have been having some minor burnout symptoms. Long story, not going to go into it tonight. But I get this one facial tic. My wife has recognized over the years. I did go through burnout back in 1999. And so occasionally, if I get too much going on in my plate, or my health isn't dialed in, if I'm just, and I hurt my ankle. So a lot of things happen this year to kind of trigger me. And so my wife goes, I haven't seen that look on your face one time. So Chattanooga was really good for me. Again, the drive to Tennessee was really cool, obviously to Nashville. And we actually left the state for a few minutes on the highway and then went right back in. So I believe we were in Oklahoma for about 15 minutes and then back in to Tennessee, which is weird. If you don't know, Chattanooga is really all the way down on actually, Chattanooga is kind of like we are here in Washington. It's on the bottom right-hand part of the state. I think we're further east in Washington than Chattanooga was, but you can drop right down into Georgia and get over to Alabama. And so really Chattanooga is pretty close to driving to Florida, driving to the coast, driving to Nashville. The next time I go back to visit Rob and Sally, I would like to go visit some of the other history of country back in Elvis's stomping ground. That will be a lot of fun if we get to go back to Chattanooga. We do want to visit another state. I really do like Tennessee. I had a good time, great people, and it was good for me. Shannon, I then got home, then went camping up in the mountains. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few weeks. I'm not going to bore you guys with that information tonight, but I do want to talk about the place that we went in our trailer, and that will be a lot of fun. Cruised, not me. Let's see. Let me go back and see that comment. We just did our first cruise 3 weeks ago. Oh, Jay, where did you cruise? I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought Tony said that. Jay, where did you go cruise at? I'd love to hear that in the chat so other people can know. Shannon, I've done 6 or 7 cruises. I can't remember. I think 6. We went down into Mexico. We went to the Caribbean twice. We also went to Florida, went on a Disney cruise. We went on a Princess cruise a few years back, and we also went to Alaska. And so I think we've done Caribbean, both sides of the Caribbean, the Disney cruise, which was out of Florida, 2 out of California, and 1 out of Alaska, I think is our total cruises. The last I took was a Western Caribbean cruise. That's Tony on Royal Caribbean. I love those ships. Symphony of the Seas. I don't think that was our ship. It was back in 2019. It was awesome. Loved the elevator lounge bar. Yeah, we had the elevator lounge bar on ours. I didn't write it, but it actually goes between 2 floors, which was really cool. But I've watched it go up and down. They always have a classic car. And they have a big like boardwalk outside, and then they have like a mall inside. It's really cool ship. Love the Caribbean ship, bigger than the Princess boat we went on, Princess Cruises. So, but if Jay's still here, we would love to know where you went, Jay. So, I've updated all of my Stiudio Live equipment. Both of my stage boxes are now updated. They have a drag and drop feature where you can download the firmware and then drag and drop it. That's how I was able to finally update my Stiudio Live 32 SC console. They do supposedly have this new in universal control, this new ability to update everything at the same time, but not very good instructions. How do you network it? Are you going to AVB network? Do you have to have everything in a switch? I have 2 stage boxes and 5 16M in ears, and so I don't have a network big enough to put all that together. So I just hooked each device up to the network, my laptop to them. So basically I had my laptop connected directly to my Stiudio Live 32 SC console. I then used wireless networking on my laptop, downloaded the firmware, and then I could drag and drop that into my Stiudio Live account. And on each of my 16Ms, you can only network one device at a time to get it to work. And you have to download the firmware for the Stiudio Live console. You have to download the firmware for the stage boxes, and obviously the same firmware for this 2 stage boxes. They're identical. I could use that file and drag and drop it, and it would go through an update process, reboot, everything's fine. Same with my 16M in ears. I updated those individually. One file I was able to drag and drop to each one of my 16M in ears. Again, I had to change the network cable to each one. After they're updated, they all would go through a little update screen and then reboot. And then they would come up with a new firmware in my Stiudio Live page. And again, my Stiudio Live page, let me bring that up on the air here again, looks like this. So again, you could do the drag and drop function. After you hook up to this, it shows up as hooked up, and then you could just drag and drop right from here, and then you download the firmware for each device right here. So as you change devices, once they're hooked up to your computer, then they'll show up on the list. And there's all kinds of great information here, how to use the Stiudio Live series apps to be able to give people the ability to control their own mix. You turn the phone sideways and you have access to each of the channels, 16 channels in that particular mix. All of these updated videos are all inside the software. So I really do like my Stiudio Live console. I do really like Moon Pies. I really liked Chattanooga, and I'll let you guys know my impressions of Nashville next week. But we'll have another topic that we'll talk about for majority of the live stream. Then we're going to do a 7 or 8 minute trolley tour of downtown Nashville. I'll do a little commentary, but the driver does really good commentary on those video clips. I do have to edit out children and all that, so I can't show the whole tour. I can only show you the things that I can show you. I will be spending some time blurring out some faces next week in that tour. So again, check out the videos in the link below. Tony said the Mr. and the Mrs. and I spent every evening before dinner grabbing a cocktail on the elevator lounge. Yeah, I wonder what that cost you total. I know that you have to pay for drinks on the cruises. I think there's a drink package that you can buy for both non-alcoholic drinks and alcoholic drinks and coffees. So they have a pop package. They now have a drink package, and they also have a coffee package, and that's like lattes and things like that. Shannon and I both had a latte package. I don't drink alcohol anymore because I don't do anything halfway. And years ago, I had to stop doing things all the way, if you know what I mean. But I do drink plenty of coffee, and I love pop especially Coke Zero products. But again, so I like Mountain Dew as well, and Mountain Dew came from Tennessee. I love the history, so check out the video on moon pies. Check out the video below on Mountain Dew. Check out the video below on Chattanooga Cho Cho. And again, I will be uploading my Chattanooga video on my channel. So if someone just wants to watch that train ride again, they'll be able to just watch that video. That's going to upload this week. I will put my music on that video and upload it, and I'm going to actually color it a little bit as well. So, well, that's it for me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the EQs and the compressors and the Mulan certification that's now available with the firmware updates. Again, all the other devices, my 16M ear devices, as well as my stage boxes and my network switch are all updated as well. So they are Mulan certified as well, and they're all going to clock better inside my AVB network. Also, when they did improve the digital reverb inside the Stiudio Live, I forgot to tell you, it's got a new UI, and it's got new factory presets, and I went through some of those presets, so, and new controls. So that is a big update to the digital reverb built into the Stiudio Live consoles. And then you have the 7 new EQs models that are available and the 8 new additional compressors that are available. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed a little bit of information about my trip to Chattanooga and the train ride and moon pies. And I did not bring a Mountain Dew tonight. Maybe I'll have a Mountain Dew on the set next week, because Mountain Dew is just Tennessee specific, not Chattanooga specific. But I did hear that the first Mountain Dew was bottled in Chattanooga. Who knows if that's true or not, but you can check that out. So yeah, and thank you, Tony. I am approaching 4K. I do have some ideas of what I want to do when I do cross that 4K, 4,000 subscribers threshold. Again, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for liking these videos. It helps immensely. Thank you for joining me next week. I hope you guys will be here as we talk more about Nashville, Tennessee, and as well as some new things I have planned for next week. So I will leave those top secret until the still image comes out next Tuesday, sometime between 9 and 11:30 is when my still image and my live goes live. Even though I'm not live, you can start chatting as early, usually as 11 a.m. with me in that live stream. And I'm usually in the studio. So if you ever want to pop on early and set it so that you are in the waiting room and chat, that's perfectly fine. I will try to answer those chats, even though I was way behind today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I hope we hit 4,000 subscribers before the first of the year. We're not that far away, but I'm only averaging 60 to 75 subscribers a month. So it is going to take us all of September and all of October at the rate we're going to break 4,000 subscribers, but that would be a great November present. So if you have anybody that you would like to invite to the channel that's in your circle of influence, I would really, really love to do that. Our next Zoom call, I think I'm going to do that late September. So I will try to announce that specifically next week. I think it's time for us to do another Zoom. I can't remember when the last one is, to be honest with you. I think it's been more than 3 months. So I try to do those once a quarter, which would be every 3 months. So looking forward to getting everybody together, and hopefully we'll have some new faces on that Zoom call as well. If you don't know what that is, I try to do a free quarterly gathering for anybody that would like to join from the channel. We're face-to-face on Zoom, not on a live stream. We don't record it. But if you join that Zoom call, I call it the Zoom town hall meeting. You get a chance to meet other people that are live in the chat, and hopefully they'll come, because if they don't come, it's hard for you to meet them. And I would love to have a large town hall meeting, and that would be a lot of fun. I did run into some interesting information that I'm going to share next week also. So I hope you guys will be back to join me next week as we talk about the museum. We talk about Nashville. But before we go tonight, I want to just say thank you again to the people of, let me just clear this. Thank you to the people of Chattanooga. I did come home with a little piece of coal you saw in the video as a token. This is going to go on my shelf as well. It's going to remind me of the steam engines. And when I grew up later in my third grade years and older to my junior summer in Pennsylvania, there was plenty of coal mines. So I'm very familiar with coal, but I thought it was really cool that they had some coal samples. And so I grabbed, it's laying around in that train ride all over. So I picked up a piece and brought it home with me. So that coal is going to go up on my shelf and reminds me of the old days when steam was how trains went from one station to another station. And many of us know what it was like to have old flip phones. Now we have these high-tech phones. We have the ability to live stream. So sometimes we need to take a look back to see how far we have come here in the United States of America, as well as other countries that are represented here tonight. Looking back at your roots and your history, and Chattanooga is rich with history, like moon pies. Oh, good. But you need water. That's it for me. The moon pies love you. They are here. If you stop by, I'll save a few of them and have one waiting for you. Like I said, I bought a whole box. My wife just says I have to bring one to her when the live stream's over tonight. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week. I hope you'll watch the videos here on my channel. And again, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. Stay happy, stay safe, and don't get those ticks on your face like I had before I left to go to Tennessee. So until then, we'll see you a week from now.